£20 coin.
Never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Right. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person at the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do.
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Well,
we just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay.
Because
is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
When the case finally reached court, the auditor walked away with a settlement of nearly £4,000 plus legal costs. A clear signal that the police knew they didn't have a leg to stand on. You don't pay out that kind of money unless you know you've done something wrong. Yet, what's most striking is the silence that followed. According to the auditor, not a single apology came from the chief constable. They handed over taxpayer money but refused to acknowledge fault, showing a culture more focused on saving face than rebuilding trust. This wasn't just a minor mistake. It was a complete breakdown in how authority was exercised. A civil disagreement over payment was turned into a wrongful arrest because ego outweighed law and intimidation replaced understanding. When officers rely on what ifs instead of facts, it stops being policing and starts being control. And the silence from leadership afterward, that's the loudest message of all. It tells the public that protecting reputation comes before accountability. This case should serve as a warning. When the basics of law are ignored, even the smallest disputes can cost thousands and far more in lost trust.
I have.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately, it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve the civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue. That's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But we don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue. Then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is.
It's
not. A police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them.
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today whether we take your details and we deal with it at a later date.
This is where the situation crosses a line from incompetence to outright abuse of power. The officers arrest the auditor for making off without payment while he's literally standing in the store stating, "I haven't made off." That single sentence should have stopped everything. The theft act is crystal clear. There must be both the act of leaving and the intent to avoid payment. Neither was true. He hadn't left, hadn't refused to pay, and had already offered valid currency. Legally, there was no offense to arrest him for. Yet, they went ahead anyway, showing how little attention was paid to law they're meant to enforce. It's an indefensible decision that exposes how easily poor training and misplaced authority can lead to wrongful arrests. And now, we'll see exactly how that decision came back to haunt them.
So basically, he's trying to pay with this. They've run the post office and said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter. However, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. Now he's obviously not really wanting to do that at the minute.
Because it's a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But you're still going to make off, aren't you? Technically without payment, but if we can get your details...
But I have paid.
But you haven't...
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Has he paid?
Policy? No, he hasn't.
Right, if you haven't paid, and if you walk out this door now...
They've still got the money though.
Just let me finish. If you walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them.
Well, I do
because it's a civil issue.
But it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police matter.
The entire interaction is built on a fiction the officers themselves created. They keep warning the auditor about what will happen if he leaves, even though he's still standing right there, calmly engaging in try pay with a Royal Mint coin. Their reactions aren't based on what he's doing. They're responding to a scenario they've imagined. That's not law enforcement. That's speculation. And their insistence that they couldn't verify his identity without forcing him to hand over ID falls apart instantly once you remember his vehicle and license plate were right outside, providing a lawful and easy way to confirm his details. Yet they ignored that, choosing instead to escalate. By turning a civil disagreement into a supposed criminal act, they didn't just mishandle the situation, they inflated it beyond recognition, proving how quickly authority can distort judgment when unchecked.
So if you walk out that
No,
door
it's
now,
not.
it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that
Is there,
the coin can be
is
used.
there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being.
No,
However, we need
I don't
a
intend to.
solution.
No.
No, I
If
appreciate
you
that.
can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details and we can deal with it at a slower time, we can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
We don't know where you live, you might not even be from around here, I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean, we have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
Which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the fuel. Which one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, and we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid at the minute.
When the second officer arrives, the situation instantly escalates from confusion to chaos. Without assessing the facts, she jumps straight to threats of arrest, even though the auditor is still inside the premises, not attempting to leave, and openly trying to settle the dispute. That alone eliminates any suggestion of making off without payment. In fact, the auditor had already offered a £20 Royal Mint coin, lawful currency, that the cashier refused to accept. Under the Theft Act, both leaving the scene and intending to avoid payment must be proven before an arrest can be justified, and neither element exists here. Instead of applying that standard, the officer twisted the facts to justify authority she didn't have, exposing a worrying gap in her understanding of basic law. What should have been a routine conversation about payment turned into a needless show of power.
Well, I have, because I've handed the coin over.
Right.
So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No,
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
correct.
Right, so did you contact them today, or was it yesterday, or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
How's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. At the end of
You
the-
don't know that. It is. It's
Right.
legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we could kind of end the matter here, can't we?
But if it's a civil
you're not
issue, I
willing-
don't need
but
to
at the minute
assist
we
you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
But I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that coin.
Even after admitting that the issue is purely civil, the officer tries to create a power that doesn't exist, insisting she can demand ID to resolve it later. That's not how policing works. Without suspicion of an offense, there's no authority to compel anyone's details. Her bluff about circulating him as wanted only makes it worse. Wanted markers are reserved for criminal suspects, not customers in a contract dispute. Using that kind of threat to force compliance isn't enforcement. It's intimidation, and it exposes how little ground she actually had to stand on. If she truly believed a crime might have been committed, she needed to assess the legal elements: dishonesty, intent, and an attempt to avoid payment. But none of that applied here. The auditor stayed put, offered to pay, and merely questioned the method. It was a straightforward civil disagreement dressed up as a crime because an officer didn't know or didn't care where the law drew the line.
But if
You're
it's a civil
running the risk of
agreement,
being arrested because you haven't given us the details, and you're going to walk out that door, and it's technically a failure to pay.
but then it'll be a
Make off
civil.
without payment.
But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's
So,
fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
unlawful
But
arrest.
like I said, we've been honest with you in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest, okay? And all I'm saying
But he
is, if you
hasn't.
get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But
you
as
know-
far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, there's going to be a make without payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
Or you give us your details.
You're refusing to give us your details, and we don't know that that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you
Is it urgent?
that he said he would take the coin
But he isn't now, is
if
he?
I take my mask off.
Right, well I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for you've got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could be registered to somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't need to assist you.
Once you leave this situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go
But I
with,
don't
but you're
need
still
to assist
refusing
you.
to. Are you offering to give
Because
the
you're
staff,
wrong.
not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the background.
Fine, you can
So-
prove that at court.
I've got
Prove that at court
That's
then.
fine. You can prove that
Yeah.
at court.
Right, well this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't
I
have to
haven't-
say anything
but I haven't made off.
We don't mention one question to the letter line court. Anything you do is maybe given evidence.
But I haven't made off though.
For your arrest is prompted in factual investigation. Okay?
But I haven't made off.
You're under caution still.
Mind you, the fact that you failed to provide details.
But I haven't made off.
Failed to provide details, yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right, are we going to go calmly? Are we going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay, well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Just come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just take them out. It's just a question we
Thank
ask
you very much.
everybody.
Can we just take your camera off as well, please?
From the moment the officer steps onto the scene, it's clear she's completely out of her depth. The auditor immediately notices her body camera is recording and rightfully asks why she hasn't declared it, as officers are required to inform the public at the earliest opportunity when filming. Instead of acknowledging this, she denies that such a rule exists, a glaring mistake for someone sworn to uphold procedure. Things only go downhill when she starts demanding the auditor's name in what is clearly a civil disagreement, not a criminal case. There's no legal foundation for forcing identification when no offense has been committed. Whether she genuinely didn't know the difference or simply ignored it, both possibilities expose a troubling lack of professionalism. For an officer in uniform, misunderstanding such a basic boundary isn't just careless, it's unacceptable.